The types of questions you're looking at is very frequently used on a test. Typically, you're being asked to determine the item which does not belong to the group. And you're presented with multiple items. In our choice, we have choices A, B, C, and D. Each item is represented as a square which contains multiple different items inside. And you need to determine the item which does not belong to this particular pattern or sequence. Do you see the answer? Please take a look to see if you can come up with the solution. Give yourself 5 to 10 seconds, maybe 10 to 20 seconds to see if you can come up with the answer. Did you figure it out? Let's continue to see how we can go and get to the correct solution together. As you might have figured out by now, there's always a pattern that you need to detect to answer these types of questions correctly. And a lot of times, there are items that are designed to confuse you. So let me first walk you through the items that are designed to confuse you. You have small circles, and there are 4 small circles in each of the square. And the small circles do not have any patterns. We also have triangles. Some squares have 2 triangles, and some squares only have 1. But there is no pattern here. The pattern is actually defined by the half circle. And as you can see, all half circles are attached to the corners of the square. You see this in the shapes A, B, and C. But in shape D, half circle is placed in a different location. It is in the bottom middle of the square. This is why the item that doesn't belong to the group is the choice D. So the correct answer here is choice D. Let's recap. The pattern here is that all half circles are attached to the corners of the square. But half circle in the shape D is placed in a different place than the others. The half circle there is in the lower part of the square. This is why the correct answer here is choice D. Hopefully you've nailed this question and now know how to answer similar problems on the test. This is one of my favorite questions, and there is a very high chance that you will get it on the assessment test. How many triangles do you see? You're presented with the shape on the left. There is a large triangles, and there are also lines inside of this large triangles. You have 4 different choices. Choice A, 9 triangles. Choice B, 12. Choice C, 17. And choice D, 24. One triangle is highlighted in red, but there are a lot of other triangles. Do you think you know the answer? Give yourself a few seconds. I would recommend 10 to 15 seconds. This is about as much time as you will get in the real test. You can pause this video to give yourself some time to figure out the answer. I'm going to continue and reveal the correct solution so we can get to the answer together. I counted 12 triangles in this picture. Is this what you got too? Let me show them all for you. I'll start with the smaller triangles and then go to the medium-sized ones and then go to the large ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Did you come up with the different answer? Please share your thought process in the comment section of this video so we can all learn from your perspective. Hopefully you nailed this question and got to the correct answer on your own. I'm extremely excited to share with you the question that tests your pattern recognition skills. You're presented with 3 columns. Each column has 3 numbers. In the first column, we see numbers 2, 7, 5. In the second, middle column, we see numbers 2, 3, and 4. And in the last, rightmost column, column number 3, we see numbers 10, 21, and then 1 number missing. You need to find the missing value, which is highlighted by question mark. You need to find the missing value, and you have 4 choices to choose from. Choice A, 8. Choice B, 16. Choice C, 27. And choice D, 36. Do you think you can recognize missing value? Give yourself 5 to 10 seconds to see if you can come up with the answer. Did you figure out the solution? Let's continue to see how we can get to the correct solution together. The most important skill to solve these types of problems is pattern recognition skill. To recognize the pattern, you need to look closely into each column. Selective values in columns 1 and 2 by multiplication get to the value in column 3, and this is our pattern. Let's take a closer look for the values that are already present. If we multiply 5 by 2, we get to the value of 10. Second set of values represented by the middle row. 7 multiplied by 3 equals 21. So the missing values here can be calculated by multiplying 2 by 4, and the end result would be equal to 8. So the correct answer to this problem is choice A, 8. I also wanted to share with you one of the typical mistakes people make as part of answering these types of questions. People start looking at the columns themselves. But unfortunately, there's no pattern just by looking in the values in column 1, since pattern just doesn't exist. If you look only at the values in column 1, or only at the values in column 2, or only at the values in column 3, you will not be able to come up with the answer. You have to look across and take a global view across multiple columns to get to the correct solution. Can you do me a favor? If you have a better way of solving this challenge, please share your thought process in the comment section of this video. I'm very excited to share with you this question, which we frequently see on the test. Despite being tricky, you will have a lot of fun trying to find the answer. This is one of those questions that is easy to understand, and it challenges your brain and improves your IQ. It also tests your imagination, spatial thinking, logical thinking, and attention to details. Take a look at the picture and see how many squares do you see. Think again. The answer might be more challenging than you think. Now might be the good time to pause this video to see if you can come up with the answer on your own. Give yourself about 10 seconds. This is typically how much you will get on the real test. Do you know the answer? Let me give you a tip. Keep in mind though that on a real test, most of the time you don't get any tips. But since we're doing it together, I'd like you to consider the possibility of one shape being inside the other. Let's continue to see how we can solve this challenge and get to the correct solution together. There are 14 squares that can be identified in this picture. This definitely came as a big surprise to me. Do you see them all? Some of them might be much easier to identify than others. Let me draw them for you. There are 9 small squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Even though small squares are easy to see and identify, let's look at the medium-sized squares. There are 4 of them. Number 10, number 11, number 12, and number 13. And then there is one large square. This is number 14. What do you think about this challenge? Were you able to solve it right away? In case you see some additional shapes that we missed, which is always a possibility, please make sure to share them in the comments of this video. Hopefully you've nailed this question and now know how to answer similar problems on the test. Here's the interesting question that might get you puzzled. You need to explain why the calculation that you see is correct. And you have a calculation 1 plus 1 equals 10. Give yourself 10 seconds and let me give you a hint. Try to think out of the box and try to see what else can be going on here besides just the calculations. Do you think you know the answer? Let's continue to see how we can solve this challenge and get to the correct solution together. Typically, when we do calculations, we use 10 digits in the decimal system. We use 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. But here, calculations are done in the binary system. And there are only 2 digits in the binary system, 1 and 0. So what happens when you get calculation in the binary system and you add 1 plus 1, what looks 10 in the decimal system looks like 2 in the binary system. So the correct answer, this calculation is possible because of the binary system. Let me demonstrate this to you. If you launch Calculator in Windows and then switch to the Programmer Calculator, you can choose different systems. By default, it's a decimal system. But if we switch to binary, and then we can add 1 plus 1 equals what looks like 10, in reality is 2 in the binary system. Hopefully you've nailed this question and now know how to answer similar problems on the test. I gotta tell you, I love this question. This is such a unique question, and we see a lot of variations of this question on the test. In this particular version, you are presented with the 4x3 matrix of squares, and then you see 2 additional squares on top of the medium-sized squares. And the question is, how many squares do you see on the picture? Take a closer look and give yourself a little bit of time to find out the answer. Feel free to pause this video if you need more time. Do you have the answer? Let's continue to see if we can come up with the solution together. As you might have figured out, there is a total of 30 squares shown on this picture. Let's start by removing overlapping squares and counting medium-sized squares. There are 12 of them on this picture. Let me count them all for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Once we reintroduce overlapping squares, we can count them as well. They would have numbers 13 and 14. 2 overlapping squares introduce 8 small squares. They would have numbers 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22. There are also 6 large squares. Let's give them a numbers: 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, and 28. As you can see, those large squares are located in the top row as well as in the bottom row. And last but not least are 2 extra large squares. I gave them the numbers 29 and 30. Were you able to solve this challenge on your own? Did you get to the right answer? Or maybe we missed some of the squares? Feel free to share this information in comments, and I hope this question was nailed by you, and now you know how to answer similar questions on the test. Here is the question which tests your understanding of English language, your vocabulary, as well as your ability in logical reasoning. What has 4 legs but can't walk? Do you think you know the answer? Now might be a good time to pause this video to see if you can come up with the answer. Do you think you found the answer? Let me give you a quick hint. Think out of the box and think of not necessarily something that walks. Did you figure it out? Let's continue to see how we can solve this challenge and get to the correct solution together. As you might have figured it, the answer is chair, and the alternative answer could be armchair, table, or stool. Hopefully you figured it out on your own and now know how to answer similar problems on the test. Here's an interesting question which tests your spatial thinking. How many 4-sided shapes do you see? And you're presented with the picture on the left, which has a lot of different shapes. First, you need to be clear on the definition of 4-sided shape and have a good understanding of what it means. Once you have the definition, you can count all the shapes on the picture that match this criteria. Did you figure it out? Let's jump to the solution so we can solve this challenge and get to the correct solution together. So as I mentioned, first let's do a definition of the 4-sided shape. And the simple definition is that the shape has 4 sides. For example, a rectangle has 4 sides, and you see a rectangle 1 here which has 4 sides, and this shape here matches the criteria. Shapes that are covered by other shapes are not 4-sided. For example, we have something that mimics square here, but because it's covered by another square, it is not four-sided. Actually, it has 5 sides. The key to answering this question is to make sure that you didn't miss any shapes. In fact, it's so easy to miss because some shapes are inside of the other. Let me show you all 8 shapes here on this picture. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Let's look at inside shapes that form another shape. Shape 2 and 3 form shape 4, and shapes 1, 2, and 3 form a shape 5. Now, was it easy to solve for you? Do you see any shapes we might have missed? Please share your thoughts in the comment section of this video. Here is the tricky question, which tests your imagination, knowledge of English words, and logical reasoning. What word can you form using all the letters in the box? And you're presented with the box that contains 9 squares, and each square has a letter inside. Take a closer look at this picture and see if you can come up with the answer. This might be the right time to pause this video to see if you can come up with the answer on your own. Do you think you know the answer? Let's continue to see how we can solve this and get to the correct solution together. Obviously, there are quite a few words that can be formed with these letters, but the best word will only contain one of each of the 9 letters presented here on the screen. The best solution here is think of the sequence. A lot of times authors of this question put letters in the opposite orders of the way we currently read this. So for example, if we read left to right or top to bottom, they might put word letters that will go in the sequence from right to left or from bottom to the top. And this is exactly the case here. The correct answer here is word beautiful, which starts in the upper right corner. And then you go by the letters B-E-A-U-T-I-F-U-L. And that's how you get to the correct answer, which is the word beautiful. Hopefully you've nailed this question and now know how to answer similar problems on the test. Here is the very interesting question from the real test some of you might find challenging. Despite being tricky, you will have a lot of fun trying to find the solution. Because this question tests your imagination, spatial thinking, logical thinking, and attention to details. Please take a look at the picture and identify all triangles in this picture. Do you think you know the answer? Now might be the right time to pause this video to see if you can come up with the answer on your own. Give yourself about 10 seconds. This is typically about as much time you'll get on the real test. Did you come up with the answer? Let me give you a tip. Keep in mind though, that on the real test, nobody's gonna give you any suggestions. But make sure to consider the possibility of one shape being inside the other. Now let's continue to see if we can solve this challenge and get to the correct solution together. It is mind-boggling, but there are 35 triangles here. Can you believe it? Certainly was a huge surprise to me as I was discovering them. Let me draw all of them for you. I will start by drawing small border triangles. There are 10 of them. Please count with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now let's do next 10 triangles. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. And now let's do next 5. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Another 5. 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. And then the last 5, 31, 32, 33, 34, and the last one is 35. Do you think we missed any? Please make sure to leave your comment and let us know if there is even more. Hopefully you nailed this question and now learned how to answer similar questions on the test. I had this question being asked as part of consulting job interview. How many seconds are there in a year? Take a look at the picture. It might give you a hint. Do you think you know the answer? Think of the logic. How would you calculate how many seconds are there in a year? Or maybe there is an alternative. Always try to think out of the box. This would be my hint to you. And give yourself 10 to 15 seconds. This is as much time as you might get answering these types of questions in the test. Now let's continue and get to the correct solution together. Obviously, this is a tricky question, and it challenges you in understanding of the word second. There are two meanings in the word second. One is second, for example, 1 minute has 60 seconds. But second one is second, where you have sequence of first and second. And the second meaning of the second is used in this particular question. So if we go back to the question, in the year there are 12 months, and there are 12 second days. 1 second day in each month. January 2nd, February 2nd, March 2nd, and etc. Hopefully you've nailed this question, it gives you some laugh, and you now know how to answer similar problems on the test. Thanks for watching. If you like the content, please give us a like and consider subscribing. Thank you for your endorsement, support, and patronage. Please also check out additional resources in the description section of this video. I also encourage you to check resources page on our website, howtoanalyzedata.net. Please leave your feedback, corrections, or suggestions in the comment section of this video. And all the best on your journey. I'll see you in my next video.